Welcome to another Keelhauled podcast. I'm your host, CaptainLogun, and we've got a lot of Sea of Thieves news to cover today. So tie yourselves to the mast and hold fast. Ahoy there, pirates. I hope you had yourselves a good week and a good weekend. I know I did. This week, we're going to be talking all about some of the news that came out from Rare this week, as well as some of the hot fixes and patch notes that we didn't cover or came in as a result of some of the issues that are going on with Act 3 of Season 18. All that and more in this week's episode of Keelhauled Podcast. But before we get into any of that, I have to thank the patrons. They're the ones that went over to patreon.com/Keelhauled Podcast to support this content. And as such, I always like to make sure that I give them a shout out. So thank you to A-Chick, L Cute, Balls, Blue Turtle V1, Captain Chonky, Chateau Noof, Super Pack, Zombie Killer, Cosmic Johnson, Static Mirror, Crazy Frog, Davrum TV, El Jefe Esteban, Godhammer 6, Jeff H, Carl Embo of Embo Family Gaming, Kylia the Aficionado, Elvin Vramir, Evil Morpheus, Space Admiral Ors, Xbox Mike 29, Rabid Raccoon, Blue Crab, Reap's Revenge, Regis Stella the Brony Pirate, Ribloid, Rustbell Kid, Sea Leg Sam, Shoe Daddy 13, Scameld 666, Tales of the Sea, The Demon Jester, Tommy D, TN Professor, Wailing Witch, Wild Hog Murph, Big Bad Pad, Mina Fairy, Hegger Owl, Captain Duckweed, Evil Martha, Peter Miller, Rooski Doo, Thor Von Blitz, Luke Lore the Insipid Ghost, and Zam Wow. Thank you all so much for your love and your support. And I woke up the baby. Oh no, I woke up the baby with the Zam. I'm sorry, baby. I gotta go take care of the fern before she goes crazy. And with that, pirates, let's get into it. First on today's docket, let's talk about the blunder with doubloons. This is something that's been been going on a little bit as people are working towards those 50k doubloons. There has been an update, and it's an interesting one, so let's get into it. Over on the forums, Drew Stevens decided to put out a post addressing the feedback from community members. Now, a lot of people are going to have their own personal opinions on this, and a lot of that is going to factor into how you take this news. But let's talk about the change that is now going to be happening with the doubloons as far as the reset goes and the cosmetics that they are using as a commemorative doubloon themed items that are going to be available from March 19th, which is this week, until April 16th. So these are the ones that are going to be available: the title, the eye patch, the belt, and the sails. That's right. That's all that is going to be available. 4,050 doubloons worth of cosmetics. Now, you may be wondering, what happened to the Cutlass? Well, on April 16th, all players with a cumulative lifetime doubloons earnings will be calculated. And then, as part of a follow-up update, players will be issued the following into their inventories. And that is where that Cutlass will live. So no longer is the Cutlass going to be made available for purchase. If you have the 50k doubloons, you'll just be awarded that 50k doubloon item at the end of the period where it's going to be available, or where the other cosmetics are going to be made available after the 16th of April. The change here comes down to the cumulative earnings. Now let's get into the actual post here. Drew says, "Hey everyone, following our recent confirmation of the upcoming doubloon commemorative items and their prices, it's fair to say that we've seen polarizing feedback across our player base. We knew that that by setting such a high price point for doubloons Cutlass that truly targets our most dedicated doubloon gatherers for the last 7 years, that we'd in doing so disappoint many players who hadn't reached that clearly monumental target. While we've seen lots of requests for this Cutlass to be brought down in price and turned in or in turn made accessible to more of our players, we've made the decision to stay with the price we've established here, and for this item to truly remain a recognition of the efforts over these overachievers. Part of the feedback we saw, however, was deep disappointment from many of our veteran players who had over time spent or converted their doubloon hoard and now find themselves unable to access this commemorative item. This feedback was fair, and we didn't feel good that these veteran players were unable to celebrate their efforts here alongside others through no fault of their own. While we had originally dismissed alternative distribution methods during the development process due to various technical and design comprehension reasons, we've made the call to reinvest development time into this system to create a better end result for our players. The change we'll be making here will be to award the Doubloon Cutlass to all players who had earned over the 50,000 doubloon threshold in the cumulative lifetime earnings. This means that even if players do not or no longer have doubloons in their wallet, as long as they have earned over 50,000 doubloon threshold in the lifetime of their account, they will be awarded this reward as recognition for their lifetime achievement. While players will be unable to see their lifetime earnings, this will be calculated within our system behind the scenes. This will take place on the 16th of April prior to the reset, as the team work through this change in our approach. This will mean that the distribution of the Doubloon Cutlass will happen later than originally planned, and will communicate the specific timings of this reward arrival closer to the time. So thank you, Drew, for taking feedback into consideration and putting a post out about this. I personally am of the mindset that I rather wish that they hadn't done this for my own personal. Now, for anyone that's earned it, I'm happy for them. I'm very happy that they get it if they've, over the course of the lifetime, have done that. The trouble that I run into is when they had initially announced this, I looked at my 14,000 doubloons and reconciled that there was no way that I had enough time to be able to earn the 40-some thousand that I was going to need to be able to get that cutlass. As a result, I had just resolved to play the game naturally. I had kind of come to the conclusion that I was like, okay, well, I don't have the ability to get this, so I'm not going to worry about it. It's just going to be something that comes and goes. It's not a doubloon cutlass, or it's not a cutlass that I would use too often, if at all, unless I was specifically looking to use it for like a Style of Thieves kind of thing. But I'm okay. There's things that I don't have in the game, and I can live with not having that. Now that this change has come in, and not being able to know if I'm close or not, given the cumulative aspect of this, it's a little frustrating from my perspective, because I don't know how many doubloons I've earned over the course of the 8 years I've been playing this game. And as a result, I'm sitting here wondering, like, okay, well, now what do I do? Now, am I close? Am I not close? If I am close, how close am I? Is this something that I can feasibly do in the time frame? How can I check? They haven't provided any way for me to check. They're still working on a way to figure out what it is to begin with. So I genuinely don't know like how I should go about this, because there's some stuff that's come to the cosmetics ship, or to like the cosmetic sets in the stores for doubloons that I earned back when it wasn't under doubloons. So I don't know if those count or not, or if they don't count, but overall, I just kind of wish that they had stuck to their guns on this in the sense that I didn't have to worry about it. At this point, if I get it, I get it. If I don't get it, I wasn't expecting to get it anyway. So for everyone that does get it, and we're hoping to get it and worked hard to get it, congrats. But I don't necessarily know that this is something that I personally am going to try and physically chase. I've tried a couple methods, but for the most part, I've effectively just been playing the game how I naturally do. Go out, work on commendations, steal when I can, look for the advantage, deny loot. That is, for all intents purposes, the way I typically play. So with that being said, I'm just going to kind of have to put this one on the shelf, because at this point, I have no clue. I've gone and used fuzzy bonds, as well as the other Steam or SOT.gg or whatever it is. I've used like the couple of the web scraping, profile scraping programs, or not programs, but websites, to go and see if I can actually like pull in the amount that I have and see, like, you know, if it looks right, if it's good, you know, how do I know? And as a result, I've been like, okay, well, it looks like I may or may not, but at this point, like, I'm not worrying about it. It's whatever. I can't change like where I'm at with this. If I haven't, then it's probably because to Rare's, unfortunately to Rare's design, I had no reason to focus on this. It was a dead currency for all I'm concerned. So as a result of that, I'm not expecting to go out and try and work on getting doubloons. It's not been a focus. So as a result, if people have doubloons and they're going to have them converted and get the sword, fantastic. I'll get the sales, I'll get the title, I'll get the sword, or not the sword, the belt and the eye patch, whatever. So just wanted to let you guys all know that if you don't know, don't worry, you're not alone in this. Looking at what I have in hand versus what I've earned lifetime based on fuzzies thing, I'm nowhere close. And because of that, I'm not even going to worry about it. So I'm just going to continue playing the game how I want and enjoy it, because at the moment, not even the stuff that Fuzzy has on SOT.db is currently like accurate. So it is what it is. I'm not going to worry about it. I hope you guys don't either. If you do get it, fantastic. If you don't, it's not your fault. They didn't put any emphasis on actually getting doubloons outside of turning in Reaper chests for the sake of cosmetics. So this is one of those things that Rare has set the arbitrary number to try and commemorate something that was just, they're like, hey, the thing that was dead that no one paid attention to outside of folks that missed out on content from back in the day, you get a pat on the back and a sword. So it'll be something for the small folk, or the small group of people out there that were hoping to get it. But who knows? If I get it, cool. If not, whatever. Next on today's docket, let's talk about the hotfix that came in as a result of Sea of Thieves' last patch. Now, this is something that they don't do all the time, but it is something that they have done in the past. And to be perfectly honest, I'm glad that they're doing that, because it's clear this is still something that is going to be a topic of conversation. So the hotfix came in, and here are the three main things that they wanted to talk about. Players dying while wearing a disguise or mimicking another player should no longer appear invisible to others when returning from the Ferry of the Damned. Crews with rival ships nearby are once again blocked from server migration until ships are at a safe distance away. Released previously as part of an interim update. Crew should no longer encounter the possibility of treasure on board their ship vanishing in certain ship migration scenarios. Then they go into talking about Ashen garrisons. Pirates using the rowboat found within the Ashen garrison should no longer find the rowboat is destroyed and treasure on board lost when the Ashen garrison resets. If all crew members are defeated by the captain of the vault and sent to the Ferry of the Damned, I don't know where else they'd be sent, the captain should now remain active at the garrison until the crew's return. Crews should no longer find an abundance of ashen keys when besieging an ashen garrison, and will now need to be more selective with which compartments they choose to unlock. After returning to a previously cleared ashen garrison, crews should no longer encounter extra waves of enemies on subsequent siege attempts. And that's it. That's all the hot fixes. So let's talk about this. Players dying while wearing a disguise or mimicking another player to no longer appear invisible when they come back from the ferry. Fantastic. Love it. Make sure that that's something that is not causing people distress, because that sucks. That's really dumb. Crews with rival ships nearby are once again blocked from server migration until server or ships are at a safe distance away. This good. I'm glad. I don't know why that was an issue to begin with, but again, terrible regression testing over there. Crews should no longer encounter the possibility of treasure on board their ship vanishing. That's a good one. I appreciate that. The one issue that I really have, well, no, I have a couple issues with the Ashen garrisons or the Garys. The rowboats at Gary's, they are either not working or they're just not there. I've done 4 in the last week that were all mega stashes. A couple of them were dives and a couple of them were emergent. But I've had terrible luck even just getting an actual rowboat to appear. When I do get one to appear, I do not use it. I stuff stuff on it, I row it out, and then I harpoon everything off of it because I cannot trust it. And not because they've been disappearing, which they were, but because when I go to use one that I did actually pick up, and this is across like multiple instances with different rowboats, every single one of them has become unusable. You can't repair it. You can't get in it. You can't sit down on the oar section of it. One time I was able to actually sit down in it. But all I can do is undock it and it's borked. So while this does seem to prevent the rowboats from actually just disappearing off the back of your ship and then all of your treasure just be in the water, which, happened to me. And I'm glad that the hotfix came in to try and prevent that. There was not enough time to work on ensuring that the rowboats were working properly multiple times, because just within the last few days since the patch, the rowboats are now just broken in some cases. I've had good luck with emergent rowboats that are not the ones that have the keg and the harpoon on them. So I would try to keep an eye out for rowboats that are just regular rowboats in this case, and just avoid the Reaper ones, because for whatever reason, they are just not working. Also, if you set off the Black Betty on top of a Gary and it explodes, that will blow up the rowboat down in the actual vault. So just be aware that regular kegs, that's fine, especially on the outer wall. My recommendation, nice little tip here, hopefully you guys use it. When you go to one of the 3 capstans to open up portions of the outer wall to hit the switches to be able to unlock the guardhouse, grab them, push them just a little bit, just enough to get the wave of skeletons to spawn. Grab one of the kegs that is actually near there on purpose. Light the keg. The AI is a little slow, so don't worry about it. They'll kind of sit there for a second, but grab the keg, light it, run away, and let the keg kill that wave of skeletons for you. Then you can run back, and as long as all of them are dead, or if you have to kill off any stragglers that ran after you or spawned somewhere else, then you can kill them and then open up the area without having to worry about skeletons stopping you by hitting you or shooting you while you're pushing the actual capstan. So had pretty good luck with that. Heard some good feedback from folks learning about the 3 capstans, lighting torches on the guardhouse to know kind of like, hey, there's one missing. That's why you gotta go double check on those. So hopefully if I think of any other tips, I will let you know. I will say that if you pull your ship or if you pull a sloop up to the main gate and you open up the portcullis for the vault as well as the outer gate, the harpoon is long enough to actually reach the treasure that is that you can drop down to like the base level of the vault floor, the basement, and harpoon the loot out that way. So if you don't have a rowboat, try and see if you can use the ship angled at the right in the right direction to try and either run loot across the harpoon or just harpoon it in general. That's going to be my best advice there. Looking at the other aspects of this, the one that I have the biggest umbrance with, and I appreciate the feedback that I've gotten online, but I feel like the feedback that I've gotten online has been one or two people saying something and then everyone else parroting it, because the note here saying crews should no longer find an abundance of ashen keys when besieging an ashen Gary is just a flat out lie. I have done all of the ones that I need to do for the commendations. The ones that I'm now working on are purely stuff that requires outside influence, like the tridents or the keys. I've opened up my 10 compartments. I just need the logs at this point. But to say that there is an abundance of ashen keys when besieging an ashen garrison is just woefully it's just not right. It's actually just not right. And I know I've had a lot of people come on there and tell me, oh, but Logan, the bottom one has 3, the top one has 1. No, it doesn't. No, they don't. That is not consistent. That is bad information. Somebody said it in a chat. I saw when people were talking about it and people just started going along with it. And then before you know it, social media is just accepting that as fact. That is not in fact. That is just a possibility. To me, an abundance of ashen keys would be over 3. I have been lucky enough to find 3, maybe 1 or 2 times at best, but most of the time I'm either taking keys there or I find 1, sometimes 2. There was one where I actually opened up the compartment, or actually I didn't open it. It was opened with an ashen key, and there was an ashen key inside it. So I don't know who's getting into these ashen Garys where they are able to get more than 3 to open up all 4 of the compartments, but that has not been my experience, and I know I'm not alone. So let's please just stop parroting everyone as far as like, you know, how many keys are there, how many are not. It's RNG based. Your best bet is to go and try and find some Ashen Guardians on an island or fish them up. Again, Devil's Thirst has a pond next to the base of the volcano that you can use to fish up anything there, because it's either pondies or what's it called? The Treacherous Plunder. So, but I thought this was really silly. It's just one of those things where I'm like, you're taking the fun out of the game. That's what you're doing. You're saying, no, instead of finding ashen keys and enjoying your experience and being able to open up the compartments, we're just going to make that harder for you. Okay, well, the accommodations are easy enough, so I guess whatever. But at this point, I'm kind of like, you only had a couple weeks to get this done. It seems weird, but I don't know. It was a little frustrating to me to have them say that there's an abundance of ashen keys. What's an abundance? To me, an abundance, more than 3. To everyone else, it's apparently 3. One thing I did find out, though, is a chick and I ended up sinking a sloop who was stacking quite a bit of treasure for not any reason in particular outside of just hubris. But they ended up having 2 garrison keys on their ship, which was fairly odd. I think they were intending to sell them, but in my mind, I never thought that you could probably sell those. I thought that they were just purely for using doors. So we had the Sea of Science moment. Will these work on a fresh emergent Gary and be able to actually like go and open up doors without having to kill skeletons? And based on our evidence, we were able to open up some of the doors. with some of the garrison keys. So I don't know if that's necessarily like something that is intended, or if it's in, one of those things where any Ashen Garrison key, any Gary key can be used on any Gary door, as long as it's just for the right door, I guess, in this case. So if there's an instance where you happen to find yourself with multiple keys, you could potentially just not have to worry about those waves. Just go take the keys, run, open up the doors, kill the appropriate skeletons till you get to the vault, kill the vault guard, kill the captain of the vault, and get the actual key, open it, and then be done. Although I will say that it's still worth going upstairs to the storeroom to actually go for those, because on the and I found this out too, on dive on raid Garys that you can do, you can still get Hunter's Call loot. We actually still got a pristine Megalodon tooth, which is one of the hardest ones to find for the Hunter's Call. We still managed to actually get one of those on a gold hoarder dive. So it is possible, but it has definitely not been something that I've seen frequently. But the Hunter's Call loot in there has been nice to get, because it's one of those things, like, I liked that I can kind of work on this commendation in an active means, but it does kind of still take away from the whole aspect of going out and killing megalodons for their teeth. So half dozen of one, 6 of another. Am I glad that I get the commendation done? Yes. Does it mean I still have to go out and actually kill another 20 megalodons for the grizzly teeth? Yeah. Is that going to bug me? Nah, I'll live with that. When Rare decides to put out more cosmetics for the ledgers instead of ignoring those for the sake of doing something else, then I will happily start going back to those commendations and start killing megalodons for the teeth, so that I can get the ledger position that I need to be able to do that. Outside of that, chances are I'm probably going to wait till they till we have to get some more ledger for Reaper's bones, and then go fish up like stuff from those voyages to turn into Reapers, because you have to turn in a certain amount of treasure from Hunter's Call to Reapers. So if and when I decide to go work on those, that's probably what I'm going to be doing. But overall, with the Garys, again, I like the Garys. I think that the design of them is really cool. I think the execution on them in the current state that we have them is poor to middle. So overall, I'm going to have to say it's kind of mid. I really love the design. I really, really, really like the concept of them. I think that's something that all of the skeleton forts should have been, but I understand that the intent with the skeleton forts was to be shorter based content with a decent supply of or decent amount of supplies at each one, so that you could kind of pop in, grab what you wanted, get a little bit of treasure, and then go. With these, it's a little more effort because it's in the roar. Fine, totally cool with it. I'm kind of working out like the best route to go, or the best way to kind of handle this. And so far, I feel like the blow dart or the knives with a sword is probably the best pairing for this. Even though I still think that it is wild that Rare has yet to like try and address the hit reg issues. I know we haven't talked about hit reg in a while. But the hit reg issues on enemies with the throwing knives is still one of the biggest issues that I have. Love that weapon. Think it's one of the best next to the grapple gun. And I genuinely think, like, if they were just to shore up the hit registration issues with the knives, those would be amazing. That would be fantastic, because yeah, throwing 3 of those at a skeleton and looking at the impact but 0 registration, absolutely like frustrating. It's like, okay, well, that would have been 1 skeleton. Instead, I now have to use 4 for 2. Next on today's docket, let's cover some of the news from the last patch notes that I didn't get a chance to talk about, so that you kind of have an idea about what's going on. And this is going to actually lead into one of the next topics. So first on this, let's talk about the new outpost stock. So if you haven't had a chance to go take a look in the game, there is some new cosmetics in the actual shop. Now, I'm glad for this because, as always, when it comes to the game, a lot of people don't want to go and spend real money on it. They'd much rather go and actually find cool stuff within the actual store. And if you're an old salt and you've bought everything, or you're really good at stealing or earning gold, then you may already have quite a bit. So now's a good chance for you to go take a look and see what else is in there. Right now, the Outpost store offers a new good boy equipment, instruments, and weapons. However, they're only for purchase for pirates who found favor with this eponymous. Let's take a look. What is that word? It's a new word for me. Every once in a while you find a new word, and it is let's see, eponymous. Actually, I should probably click eponymous. Okay, it's eponymous, meaning to giving their name to something or named after a particular person. Oh, so the idea here is there is the good boy, which is over on K9. Now, if you guys haven't been on K9, which is the location on the map for the letter K and 9 in that square, you might want to head over there because it's an unmarked isle, which is only one of 2 left in the game, which is a shame because I genuinely feel like there probably should be more unmarked isles that are just out there, because I like those and they're much better than rocks. And I would much rather have those as opposed to rocks. So looking over at K9, which is also the shorthand for canines, like dogs. You guys all know this. I'm sure you all know this. But every once in a while, there's someone who may not speak English and may not know about this. So why not dive into it? But there's a dog over on K9. And it is actually, if I recall, not technically DeMarco's dog. I don't believe this is technically DeMarco's dog, but it is a dog that appeared as a result of the arena. And there is an entire cosmetic set from Arena that was awarded to pirates who hit level 50 in Arena to be able to get this ship set. Now we actually have the full rest of the set, but it's locked right now and says that you have to earn favor with this pup because he's only going to take some sort of gift to be able to open up or give you enough favor to be able to get access to these. So what do you got to do? Well, you got to go fishing. I know you're already sick of fishing. You've already got your keys. You already got some treacherous plunder. Why would they have us go and actually do more fishing? Well, hang on, because it's gonna be something else that we might end up having to do in the coming months as well too. But for the good boy equipment, the instruments, and the weapons, you do need to go and actually get some old boots. And the only way to get old boots is to go and actually fish those up. So my recommendation, much like with any treacherous plunder, you want to find yourself a pond on an island, a pond on the shores of gold, a pond in just somewhere. Find a pond. And if you're having trouble doing this, but you want to do it near where the K9 island is, the best place you're probably going to be able to go to is actually Hidden Springs Keep. When it's not active, there is a pond there that you can use to actually fish up pondies. It's actually a good place to get wreckers too. Not wreckers, battle gills. It's a good place to get battle gills when you are working on those. I have finished all of my fishing for fish. Aside from the captaincy trinkets, which is immeasurably painful, but it is what it is. They can go back and figure out how to calculate doubloons. They can't go back and figure out how to calculate anything that we've done before then. Whatever. Head over to Hidden Springs Keep and use the pond that's there to actually fish up your treacherous plunder. Now, I don't know if this is something you can do in safer seas, but I imagine that it is, as there's nothing that I've been able to see or find that has given me an indication that I have to do it in high seas. So if this is something where you're sick of fishing and you don't want to get bothered by it and you just want to go and actually get this unlocked, maybe go give safer seas a chance. Like I said, I haven't tested it, so I don't know necessarily if this is something that's the case, but I don't think this is anything that Rare considered when they were putting it in. So I'm assuming that this is something that you can do. If I get a chance, I'll actually see if I can do it, because I haven't actually sat down to do it yet. I'll see if I can test that out and then let you guys know, because it's kind of nice to see what does work in Safer Seas, what doesn't work in Safer Seas, because ironically enough, the Good Boy set was something that was associated with Arena, which was a purely PvP mode. However, if this is something that comes in and is allowed to have that kind of stuff like done, you're not unlocking these through PvP. You're unlocking them through PvE, which is the irony here. But I would much rather have like an old boot for the dog on K9 as the unlock for this than anything else, because I actually genuinely think that lives more in the world of just fun stuff, the humor within Sea of Thieves, more than I care about the well, it's a PvP thing. I can't believe they didn't add it to the PvP commendations for number of pirates killed, and you kill pirates for the sake of slowly unlocking this, which I think they could have absolutely done. But they didn't. They decided to go with something that was a little more like on the nose. It's a dog. What does the dog do? It chews boots. What do you need to give to the dog to be able to unlock the good boy equipment? Boots. Why? Because clearly he's not being a good boy and wants to chew boots. So I don't know. That's kind of how I feel. But I like that they're doing it. It's nice, because we're also going to be getting some other stuff in the game that kind of harkens back to stuff that has come in since Arena, and we'll get into that in a bit. There's been some other stuff that has come to the game as far as cosmetics, and that's actually going to be in the Emporium, which is kind of in line with one of the other topics that I wanted to talk on. But the Reaper Heart ship collection, the Reaper Heart costume, and additional Reaper Heart weapons like the double barrel pistol, the grapple gun, the blow dart, and the throwing knives have been added, as well as some Night Wolf weapons, including the double barrel pistol, the grapple gun, the blowpipe, and the throw knives. They've also taken that emote that was only available for the costume that was like the beachcomber costume, where you could twirl the twin flaming fire batons. I don't know what to call those, genuinely. But they took that out of the costume and made it into its own emote. So now the torch trooper is available, and the bursting with joy emote is also available for free. The bursting emote, or bursting with joy emote, is something that I think is older, because I already have it. So it was either given away in Twitch drops or part of an event or something in the past. But I already had it, so I don't necessarily remember when it was that we got this in the past. But just as a reminder, there's always with every update, there's a free emote that comes in. Make sure you go in and claim those unless you already have them. Since we're on the topic of Emporium, let's get into what's coming in with March's Emporium update for season 19. This is or I guess it was in the insiders. This is not actually coming anytime soon as of right now, but it's something that came into insiders. There were definitely some content creators who posted some videos on there. Shout out to Falcor and folks who kind of like put the heads up about this out there. They're bringing in a ship set as well as some other stuff. They're actually going to be bringing in a ship set, some weapons, and some clothing, all in the style of the Black Witch, which with like a WHICTCH, which is part of the world. Like, if you guys don't know, Rare has released in the past Banjo-Kazooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Killer Instinct. They've gone back to the old games that they've done and released cosmetic sets in the Emporium that are kind of honoring that. And this is kind of interesting because in those instances, the Emporium has always offered content for games that were outside of Sea of Thieves that Rare had done. Well, the Black Witch is a game that Rare has done. It is a real ship that they had. And this is something that kind of starts towing the line between selling cosmetics that are based on Sea of Thieves' lore, even if it's self-referential to past stuff that Rare has done. So I'm kind of not happy with this, but I also understand why they're doing it. But personally, they are going to be releasing this Spirit of the Black Witch ship set. And it's going to have cannons, cannon flare, capstan, figurehead, flag, hull, sails, wheels, the whole thing, collector's figurehead, sails. They've also got the weapons, it's like the full set of weapons, and then the clothing is going to be a full set as well, including a dress. But one of the issues that I have with this is that for this season 19 only content that's coming in, I don't really like the fact that they're going to be selling cosmetics that are tied to Sea of Thieves lore in this way. We've already seen them do this with curses. There's already some curses in the Emporium. They knew this was a stretch to try and push people to get curses outside of just earning them through achievements in game. It seems like that has not necessarily broken the straw that like broke the camel's back, but it definitely was kind of that slippery slope. This is another kind of step down away from what I think the Emporium is intended to be, which is to sell cosmetics, but a way for them to bring in stuff that is outside the game and its lore to then go and actually create something unique that you wouldn't normally see in the game, because the lore never gave you a reason to go explore that territory. I'll use examples like the fossil set, where it's literally like dinosaur based with fossilized amber pieces as like in the actual Emporium. That is just a weird thing that you're never going to see in the game. Whereas stuff like the Reaper Heart collection, you probably would actually see that. Whereas like the Nightwolf set, that's a reference to a past game, but it's not necessarily something that is directly influencing Sea of Thieves' lore. The Tundra Wanderer set, which is that walrus set, not going to see a reason to really do, like, we're not getting an ice zone, so that doesn't really factor in too much. So you do stuff like that and you're like, okay, well, that's where the Emporium is. That's what the Emporium's good for. You can actually have some of that like goofy, weird, wild stuff that you wouldn't naturally see in Sea of Thieves. But they've already kind of crossed this line a little bit with some of their other stuff, like the Reaper's Heart stuff. The Reaper's Heart is lore based stuff, but it's not the Black Witch directly. They've also done stuff like this with the, oh gosh, what is it? Let me see if I can actually find the name of that ship set, because it's the Wailing. Oh, it's not the, it's the Bleak Heart. Is it the Bleak Heart Banshee? I did a whole Halloween thing on this. You'd think it'd be like burned in my brain, but there's been so much stuff over the years that I'm trying to go back and trying to remember what the specific name of this ship set is. And I'm pretty sure it's the Bleak Heart Banshee. So, but feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that. But we've had in these senses kind of connections to the game. Like there's lore based content that's outside the game, but still within the realm of Sea of Thieves, but never anything that's directly associated with it. The other exception to this is actually with the legend, the Tall Tales, effectively. The Legend of Monkey Island and Pirate's Life are both games in their own senses that were built as Tall Tales in Sea of Thieves. You could absolutely take the Tall Tales, break them out into their own games and sell them, and they would probably do pretty well. It'd be like, this is a Pirates of the Caribbean game where you play as a pirate and you go through and you have 10 hours worth of content to play this game, you know, for 20, $40 easily. Same thing with the Monkey Island, with the Tall Tales for the Monkey Island. That is effectively a point and click adventure game in first person in a 3D environment that I never thought was possible, but actually did really, really well. Even if it wasn't even if they had delays during it, it was a really, really well done. And they still had a lot of issues with some of the stuff they had to fix. But all in all, it was its own little game. And there are cosmetics in the Emporium with those tall tales that are directly related to the game. But again, the caveat here is that it's not Sea of Thieves. It's Monkey Island cosmetics. It's Pirate's Life cosmetics. And there are, some revenue returns, a return on investment with those cosmetics, with that connection to the game and those IPs that you want to try and capitalize on. Like, I get it. At the end of the day, the company is a company and it's going to try and make money. It has to pay their employees, or the game doesn't get made, or the game gets shut down. So I get it. I understand. I'm not upset about that. What I'm upset about is this slippery slope where Rare is slowly trying to find more and more reasons to put stuff in the Emporium to try and get our sale or try and sell stuff, especially when it's tied directly to stuff that is referential in the game. Because at this point, if they're willing to sell something that they call in the spirit of the Black Witch, or the spirit of Black Witch, then it's just a matter of time before we start to get Spirit of Flameheart, or Spirit of Pirate Lord, or Spirit of Bell, and giving cosmetics that, for all intents and purposes, for the most part, a lot of that stuff that we've gotten, like, the jackets, the hats, cosmetics related to significant people in the game, have always been through like a plunder pass reward or an adventure reward or a mystery, and always something that you could kind of earn naturally. And I think that was kind of the thing that was nice about it. If you wanted to get the Warsmith's throwing knife, I think it was in one of the past seasons, not only did you have to be Pirate Legend, if I recall correctly, but you had to get level 100 in the Renown. You had to earn that. You had to put in the time to actually get the cosmetics in that way. So when I see stuff like Spirit of the Black Witch, I'm torn, because I get why they picked the Black Witch. It's a reference to a past IP and game that they built. It just happens to be pirates, and it just happens to be in Sea of Thieves already. So I don't know what to really say to this, except that Rare has basically doubled down on this, and they said that they've heard the feedback, and that while they understand why people are noticeably upset about this, they're going to move forward with putting this set into the Emporium for season 19, which to me reads as, this is season 19 content. We don't have a backup set to be able to put in the Emporium, and the updates for the Emporium are top priority for the game. If a month comes along and the Emporium does not get a new set of cosmetics, that does not sit well. Either the whole build gets updated or gets delayed, or someone's going to lose a job, because the Emporium updates on the mark every single time. They do not miss. It always has new content every month. And at this point, it's just kind of rough. It's just kind of like, I hope this isn't just a cash grab, I hope they aren't just using this as a cash grab, because it feels like that to a degree. I'm just trying to understand the rationale behind it. One of the last things I just want to touch on real quick that's a little disappointing is the comments made by the devs on the forums regarding this. Thanks to the NDA being lifted, we can talk about this, but the note on this announcement came with kind of a them trying to get around the controversy, or the feelings that are being expressed by the community, which really says we listen. But they said, we've seen the early feedback around the Spirit of the Black Witch set following its early preview in the loading pages and dressing at Port Merrick in previous insider builds. While the new set is clearly inspired by Pendragon's ship, the Black Witch, it isn't a direct recreation. The decision has been made for the set to release in the Pirate Emporium, and while we recognize and understand the community's perspective on that decision, at this stage, feedback that helps us refine the set, such as any bugs or issues you notice, is especially helpful for us as we move forward, which I understand. And again, it reads as they did not have a backup set and that they wanted to do this regardless, because it is a game and it did have Pendragon and it does kind of follow the story of him and give a bit of a sense of like people being able to, or that Rare being able to pay tribute to past games. But I don't think that that's how people are going to read it. And when you come out and say, hey, we know that you don't like this, we don't have we aren't going to change that, and we just hope that you'll continue to provide us QA on this, it just doesn't feel right. And I think that there's no good way to actually say that, but at the same time, it's really tough. It's really tough for them to just say, hey, we understand that we've already compromised on other stuff and we know we're not missing, we are missing the mark, but the Emporium's getting updated regardless. So just wanted to pass that along as well too, because there are some other things that are coming into the Emporium that will be interesting to see what people think about them regarding like Athena versus Reaper, and a ghost pig, which is still not a diamond pig, or a crystal pig, but we'll get there. We'll get there eventually. So I'm not going to get too much into season 19 because this week we're going to be getting it on the 19th, but I did want to remind everyone that on the 20th, they are going to be kicking up that first fight nights, and you will be able to get the Fallen Sea Dog jacket, but you do need to win 3 matches. Season 19 brings in with the first act, the whole revamp to, well, not revamp, but the changes to Hourglass, where there's going to have the shrinking circle, the supply crates, the auto rematch, and the auto raise of an emissary flag. If I recall correctly, and we'll have to wait for the patch notes to be sure, you can use any emissary flag that you want, even if it's not one that really will benefit you. And I think that, and maybe that was not the right choice, but they showed the Order Souls flag. And if I remember from the insiders, they said that anyone could get re-raised if you go to the outpost to put up whatever flag you want. However, if you put up a guild flag, that will not auto raise. Outside of that, though, I think I'm going to hold off on going into anything major about season 19 that we haven't already talked about. But the 8th anniversary is coming up for Sea of Thieves. That is going to be on the 19th that they're celebrating it. But even if the actual anniversary is on the 20th. And one of the things that I wanted to kind of make sure you guys were aware about was something that actually arrived in the what's it called? The newsletter, the Sea of Thieves newsletter. So on the newsletter, they talked about some of the stuff that they were doing, obviously with season 19, the Emporium stuff that's actually getting brought to the game. But the anniversary sneak peek was in the actual newsletter, and it says, as if season 19 wasn't big enough, I don't know if I'd be boasting about the stuff that you had to cut. And then it's a weird, it's promotional stuff. Like they're gonna sound positive about it regardless. As if season 19 wasn't big enough, occasion to mark in the second half of March, which I don't. Okay, actually, reading that sentence, I realized it actually had nothing to do with being boastful about how big the season was going to be. It was more to do with a reason to celebrate bringing. I don't know. I'm just going to keep reading. Sea of Thieves turns 8 this month. Keep your eye out for freebies to snag, a Pirate Emporium sale, a free play weekend, and plenty more coming with a gold sailor figurehead, which, if I'm being perfectly honest, looks like the figurehead for the Amethyst mercenary set, which is effectively the Twitch set. They are just basically taking that and throwing the Reaper mark on it, making it gold and black, and calling it good, saying that's going to be the thing. I would much rather they had actually brought out, like the full Golden Sailor set, and also added in like the stuff that had come in the past, which would have been the Sailor. What did we get? More to point, the actual like cannons, because the cannons have been like a lot of people like to use regular cannons. The Golden Sailor cannons are a good way to kind of like have that without it just looking like the base cannons. And the last thing that I wanted to let you know about before I think we call it here, because we do have a lot that we're probably going to be talking about next week, pertains to the actual newsletter. So I would recommend, if you guys haven't already, make sure you go on to Sea of Thieves' website and actually sign up for their newsletter, because the little comment at the end of the newsletter said, and in the spirit of all the celebration this month, you might want to keep an eye on your inbox over the next few weeks for a little extra treat just for our email subscribers. And that's it. That's what the tease is. I think that's a good tease. I think it's fine. It's one of those like, hey, for those of you who wanted to have something a little extra or were curious what that might be, chances are it's probably going to be something like a code that you can then use to actually like redeem to get something. Who knows what? I don't know, and I'm not even going to pretend like I do. I will just say it will probably be best for you to sign up for the newsletter, so that whenever this little extra something does come out, you'll actually get quick access to that, as opposed to relying on someone else providing it for you. So just as a heads up for that. But I think that's going to do it for this week. I think, there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm very curious to find out what this community direct podcast episode is going to be like, because I think, as we're already seeing, season 19 is going to still have that 3-act structure, something that Drew has come out and said is obviously not working for the studio, but it is so late in the development of season 19 that it makes sense that they would still keep this 3-act structure, even if they've had to wipe out a lot of what they originally were planning to do, and actually just go with the Hourglass and the Last Ship Standing, as well as the Bilge Rat Weekender. I will have to see how the Bilge Rat Weekender goes, but at this point, there's nothing that's really going to change what's coming to the game. I know I'll be finally giving another opportunity for Hourglass to try and work on my Ghost Curse, so that I can then put that like to rest. I know that there's, there's what's it called? The Skeleton Curse cosmetics that are coming as well. I personally fine with that. I think it's good that they're offering new cosmetics for those curses, as they are trying to actively like incentivize players to actually get stuff. So I'm glad they're doing it, but I still really dislike the anxiety that I deal with that mode. I much prefer having adventure where I can kind of like judge things, play things out, and let opportunities open up, where I can kind of take advantage of them, as opposed to just a straight on kind of fight. That's very much kind of my like pirate style, is I like to kind of take advantage of an opportunity, as opposed to just a straight one-on-one. Because as proven the other night, I am still very rusty on boarding, but I can still do my cannons. But it's one of those things where, with this season being so focused on arena, I'll probably be jumping into arena to try and get this when everyone else is doing it, because when everyone else is doing it, it's not just the sweats, it's the horrible gamers as well. And it means that I might actually have a better opportunity of getting wins in, which with this, you will want to get 3 wins in arena, which it's going to be something. It's going to be easy for some. It's going to be hard for others, but that is how you're going to be able to get that Fallen Sea Dog jacket. So just as a heads up there. But I think that's going to do it for this episode. There's going to be a lot of information and a lot of news that's going to be coming in the following week. So we'll have a lot to talk about this coming weekend, as it will be the kickoff for season 19. Because I'm already looking at the cosmetics. I'm already looking at the plunder pass and what they've got coming in store, as far as like stuff to kind of show off your character. And I'm very, very happy with what I see. It definitely feels like they are trying to add stuff that's interesting and compelling for everyone, as opposed to just like the people that have currently missed out on content, like they have done with the way that the Bilge Rat Weekender cosmetics are gonna act. But that's fine. I understand why they're doing what they're doing. I'm glad to see some of the stuff that I do want to actually like engage with come in, even if it's through the paid plunder pass with like the Kraken set and stuff. So, but pirates, I think that's going to do it. So let's get out of here. All right, pirates, thanks for listening into this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you took into account like what I said as far as like the way that they're taking in the Pirate Emporium stuff, the issues with the doubloons and capturing like the data for that, as well as the sword. Hopefully you aren't stressing about the sword. I'd really encourage you to just kind of let sleeping dogs lie. It's not something that you can truly impact. And if you get it, you get it. But if you don't, try not to kill yourself over the like working hard to try and get it if you're not sure. Because I think at this point, with us not being able to tell or know, I would really hate for folks to just constantly put themselves to the grindstone on this and try and farm out a whole bunch of doubloons for one particular item, for one sword, because at the end of the day, it was not something that I think is on the community's fault for not engaging with something that had no value. And that's just me being honest, maybe a little copium. But pirates, that's going to do it. So thank you all so much for listening. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, definitely leave them in the comment section on the YouTube channel, or reach out to me via the Discord or through what's it called? What is the email? I don't know why email was a word that I couldn't pull right now, but CaptainLogun as the email for the show. You can always reach me there. You can always reach me through the Patreon or the Discord, or just through the comments on social media. And with that, pirates, thank you. I love you, and I look forward to sailing with you on the Sea of Thieves.